Tim Blackman has been acting Vice-Chancellor to take the university through its transition to a new Vice-Chancellor, and he is off on a very exciting journey in July to be the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Middlesex. That's right, isn't it? Good. And he's now going to give his insights into conversations and cooperation and all the challenges. Thank you, Tim.
Okay, thank you very much, and sorry there was a little bit of confusion about the time, but I'm here now and you're here, so that's a good start. And sorry, I'm only going to be able to be with you for quite a short time today, but I hope it's going to be a really constructive session. And yeah, I've lived in Milton Keynes for 4 years. Thought I might be here longer, but I'm moving on to be the next Vice-Chancellor of Middlesex University in North London. Quite a different experience, but I've really grown to admire and like Milton Keynes, and I'm going to take that away with me. I think it's quite an amazing place, and I've been on a real journey of discovery, living as a resident and working in Milton Keynes and being part of the OU, which of course is deeply rooted here. And what I want to start off by saying is that beginning with the origins of the new town, really, the really inspired designers of Milton Keynes, of course, had a really democratic ideal, and that was to create a decent quality of life for everybody, where the road grid and the land zonings were not just functional things in themselves, but were intended to spread rather than concentrate wealth, to be democratic in terms of what a city felt like, in terms of how people mixed together and lived. And that idealism was a very important part of the origins of the new town, and in many ways live on, although have been very difficult, of course, in actual implementation. But I'm going to talk about another democratic ideal, and that's in education, because Milton Keynes is the home of the Open University, and the Open University has been one of the world's most pioneering forces for the democratization, not of place, but of knowledge. And I want to say something about that in answering this question of whether we should continue to educate our communities, which of course is an obvious yes, but I want to unpack that a bit. The rise of the internet is the latest stage in this democratization of knowledge that's been going on, and which began almost 1,000 years ago with the invention in China of movable type. And then 400 years ago, we had the invention of mechanical printing and the ability to print books, which was the next stage in this incredible democratization of knowledge we've been seeing, the mass production of books. And then about 200 years ago, we had the first public libraries creating free access to those books, funded by the state, open to all, and with Britain at the vanguard of a public library movement around the world. More difficult times now, of course, for public libraries, but I've been really amazed by just around the corner from where I live in Kents Hill at Kingston Centre, a new library has just opened. It's a great place, really welcoming and important to the local community. It was 1964, actually, that it became a requirement on local authorities that they provide public libraries. And 1964 was also an important date for the Open University. In October of that year, Harold Wilson became Prime Minister following the Labour Party's success in the UK general election. And a year earlier, he'd given a speech in Glasgow where he announced his idea of a University of the Air, which became the Open University. And he gave the job of setting up the OU to his Minister for the Arts at the time, later Minister for Education, Jenny Lee. We have our most recent building on campus is named after her. And Jenny Lee's own journey from a mining community to Minister of State very much influences what the OU has stood for over time, that creation of opportunity. And Jenny Lee was also important in very much establishing the Open University as an open university, as a university that would be open to all regardless of their social background, but also linked with that, a university that would be committed to excellent scholarship. So it would be open to all by using new technologies, existing and new technologies, originally the postal service, combined with television and radio, now very much the internet. So this commitment to innovatory teaching methods was combined with a rather, in some ways, conventional commitment to universities as places of research and knowledge production, of excellent scholarship. And that was a really important principle in answering the critics of the Open University when it was founded, and there were many, that this would be a proper university and not dilute academic standards because of this commitment to the democratization of knowledge, to being open to all. I think that commitment was just so, resonated so well with being housed, having its headquarters in Milton Keynes, in terms of that idealism of the 1960s. And now the Open University is home to a really quite unique learning experience for almost 50 years now. We've been creating opportunities for students to study regardless of where they live, combining study with work. Every year, some 200,000 people now study with us, gaining qualifications that often transform their lives. And unlike most universities, as I've mentioned, you don't have to put your life on hold, your work on hold. You can combine study with other commitments. We have a flexible part-time model that means you can earn while you learn. 75% of our students are in work, fitting your university work around your daily routine, if you like. But what's been really radical about the OU is not our distance learning methods, but our open entry policy. This has enabled us to become not an access university, but a comprehensive university. Very important word. And I'm going to just say a little bit about that, because the comprehensive ideal has been something, of course, that's transformed secondary education in this country, but has hardly touched higher education. While about 90% of British pupils now attend comprehensive schools, the Open University is the only British university without academic selection on entry. And academic selection has been, quite wrongly in my view, it has become equated in the minds of policymakers, employers and the public with the quality of universities. And this equating of quality with academic selection is one of the main reasons why the quality of teaching doesn't receive the priority that in many other universities that it does in the OU, because the quality of teaching is, of course, about the value that is added to the student on top of the qualifications that they come with. It's the value added that matters, and that's about the quality of teaching. While we tend to rank universities by the quality of the students at intake, by how many students a university rejects rather than how many students a university accepts. And I just find it a conundrum that academic selection is such a controversial issue in secondary education, but taken for granted in higher education. But there may be reasons for that. So the comprehensive principle in our schools was, of course, driven by a belief in equality of opportunity. Comprehensive education basically had its origins in a bit of a middle-class revolt about the 11 plus that was denying opportunity to children and selecting, some would argue, too early in their stage of education. But it's been undermined by social forces. It's been undermined by the development of social segregation in our communities, so that schools are not often truly comprehensive schools with mixed intakes, but have become segregated, reflecting the nature, more affluent, poorer, deprived, non-deprived, the nature of their neighbourhoods. And a key indicator of this is the marked difference we find between schools in their proportions of students eligible for free school meals, a conventional indicator of the wealth or deprivation of the student intake used in many official statistics. It's a measure really of poverty in the families that that children come from, eligibility for free school meals. Yet if we look at the distribution of children eligible for free school meals across schools, nationally, even just in a town like Milton Keynes, it's very skewed. If every school in England was to have a similar proportion of kids eligible for free school meals, 40% of children would have to move school. It's just a sort of indicator of how skewed this distribution is. And this social segregation continues into our universities, which reflect and reproduce this wider inequality that we have in the UK. We're one of the most unequal countries in the developed world, and we pay for that. We pay for that in the form of higher social and health problems than other developed countries. We pay for it in terms of a depressed rate of economic growth. Recent OECD report shows very clearly the link between inequality and economic growth. And we pay for it in terms of lower social mobility, because countries with higher inequalities have lower mobility because the gap is so much bigger to jump. So we have a comprehensive ideal, but it's undermined by other forces going on in our society. And the question I wanted to pose was whether this democratization of knowledge is going to make any difference fueled by the web. And my answer is perhaps. The open educational resources movement, this movement to make courses free on the internet, has been a very important social development, started by a number of the American research universities making their courses available free on the internet, beginning some 10 years ago now. Latest developments that can be traced all the way back to that invention of movable type in China. It continues today with what are known as massive open online courses, MOOCs as they're called, now catching worldwide attention, attracting millions of learners to study these short courses, hugely scaling up the reach of excellent scholarship on global platforms such as Coursera and our own OU platform, FutureLearn, which I'll mention again in a moment. So although an OU degree costs now around £16,000 for the total degree, which is significantly cheaper than other universities, and of course we have subsidised loans available to support students, it's also true that we provide many free resources that enable us to offer education free on the internet to students from a wide range of backgrounds right round the world. And we've used lots of innovation to support this too. Our e-books are available on the internet and make education and learning much more fun, much more interesting, engaging people from many diverse backgrounds. We now offer science and technology teaching using our Open Science Laboratory, which is a way of teaching what was thought to be only teachable through hands-on teaching, through simulated environments and virtual environments. And we've also begun to develop and support this movement called citizen scientists, where ordinary members of the public can actually interact with websites and take part in experiments and become creators of knowledge rather than just consumers of knowledge. And the point I wanted to finish on was that we definitely are seeing some, if you like, addressing or tackling of our social inequalities by knowledge being made more available through the internet. But we still have digital divides. Not everybody has access to the internet, although that's changing at a huge pace, especially in terms of mobile devices. And at the OU, we've moved many of our courses onto mobile devices. But what's really going to be the game changer here, and this is what I will finish on having the minutes flashed up at me from the front row here, is smart cities, because I know there's some interest in smart cities here. What we're seeing, and the connection I'm making, is between digital learning and smart cities, because cities are becoming digital. Smart cities will run and function depending on data ecosystems, from real-time traffic management through to finding parking spaces, to smart metering of energy, to finding somewhere to spend your leisure time. And so wireless is going to become ubiquitous. And through that ubiquitous wireless infrastructure, we're going to see learning opportunities become ubiquitous too, but different. And this is my final point, because my time is out, but different to what we've seen traditionally in universities. We're going to see the ability to access knowledge when you need it, in small bites to solve a problem you're immediately facing at the time. And this is going to have a huge influence on what young people especially expect from their university education. A very different type of delivery to their mobile devices, more interesting, more focused on what they actually need to get a job, to be a citizen in the place where they live. And it's going to very much change the shape of our education. And I think by changing the shape of our education and further democratising knowledge, we're also going to see increasingly a challenge to these social inequities that I mentioned at the beginning. There have been very much a drive for the Open University in our mission to link education and social justice. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There were some very interesting points and interesting things for the education culture here. Comprehensive ideal may be undermined by other forces, and our egalitarian culture, I think, could be undermined by other forces. And the egalitarian culture is something that I think Milton Keynes we should be very proud of. When you look at other counties that have far more layers, I think we have something very tremendously important for the future. I wanted to know whether you felt, just as you've described the Open University as a democratic university, whether you think you could describe Milton Keynes as a democratic city. It's a bit of a big question, but just...
Big question, but, and, you know, you look at the answer is no, isn't it? Because, you know, everybody will think it's such an ideal democracy and democratisation. But speaking with a citizen's hat on, it's been one of the most democratic places I've lived in the sense that it's easy to live in, it's easy to get from A to B, it's got a lot of free amenities and resources, great place to bring up children in terms of the open space. And I think in terms of democracy being about inclusion and people having a space, if you like, that they share, I think Milton Keynes is a very shareable place. We'll all have examples of where that's not the case, but I think relative to a lot of other towns and cities, whether it's about sharing the road space or just sharing the amenity of the parks and lakes and so on, it is more democratic than not democratic.
Great, that's what I'd like to hear. And I want to add to that, I think we've done quite well with our young people. My experience of the young people, they feel it's their town. They feel quite a strong sense of their own young adultness in this town, and respect from the town. And I think that is a wonderful base to go forward on, because we're creating the assertive citizens of the future. Thank you very much, Tim.
Okay,
it's tweeting Twitter time. If you hopefully can join us, I know in your hectic day, that would be great. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as before, if you could just take 90 seconds to 2 minutes, talk with your partner, people sitting beside you and around you, get some more tweets up on screen, and then we'll come back and have a little look at what your views are in your reflections on what Tim was saying and anything else that's come to mind. Off you go. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's just have a little reflection on what we've got coming up here. It's an interesting one about the changing face of education for the next generation. Clearly huge challenges. Digital technology coming in to disrupt education as it is disrupting every other type of business sector. Great ideas, so a big tick there from Laura. Milton Keynes recognised as being in the heart of the UK's smart cities agenda. That's a really important set of ideas and initiatives and work going on to turn the 21st century city into something radically different from the 20th century city, and Milton Keynes is right at the heart of that, which is fantastic. Just a few that picked up as the discussion was going on, and also in terms of the presentation. And there's one that came actually from the previous presentation, which I thought was worth sharing. Notably, the Twitter handle, which is extraordinary. It's @TracyPE62975987. That's what I call a Twitter handle. And it says, connect business with community through employee volunteering. So connect business with community through employee volunteering. I thought that was a very nice idea, doing more of that. Tamsin Rawlings, at Tamsin Rawlings back, education is the driver and creator of change. OU playing a fantastic part in this, and a lot of support, I think, for that in the tweets coming up, as we can see here. And there we have need to keep the digital infrastructure keeping pace with developments. That's very important. We hear this time and again from business and from individuals. You know, broadband speeds, all of that type of infrastructure is absolutely critical as the city expands and grows. Another one from when the talk was going on, this is from at MK City Discovery. Interesting, Professor Tim Blackman thinking MK Dev Corp had democratic vision, thought MKDC was authoritarian, enforcing a headmaster plan. It's a bit of challenge there for Tim's views on that. And here we have coming up in front of us, what do you think is democracy? Is it the ability to influence the future vision for MK as city? Will citizens' views be considered? That's a very important point for all our key decision makers who are in the audience today. Another one here, this time from @Ian Revel from YMCA MK, agreeing that OU is a proper university, proper city, open access unit, a comprehensive unit, only university without academic entry mechanism. We should be really proud of the fact that it's located with us. And then the last one here, this is also from @MK City Discovery, this time agreeing with Professor Blackman's ideal to democratise education is superb, as skills and knowledge base will inform a future successful economy in MK. And as the Deputy Principal at Milton Keynes College, I couldn't agree more with that. I think skills are going to be increasingly important because we are in a knowledge-based economy and everyone needs to keep improving their skills, including me, and I'm learning a lot from my colleague down here about how to use Twitter. One or two, MK as the lead in lifelong learning has come through in both presentations. I think that symbol means love creative learning alongside traditional academic. So some good points there. Francesca.
I just want to agree to, I think when the earlier film from Roger talked about the city of lifelong learning, I thought that's a term that's gone round and round and on. But if we could just reinvigorate it and actually believe it, because that's so important for health and social interaction and this equality agenda. So I haven't really more to say except, yeah.
Keep those tweets coming.
Keep them
Getting into
coming.
the spirit of it now. This is good. Keep tweeting.